Hey everyone. Hi Kevin.
Hi, Eloise. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well, thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Welcome everyone. In this session, I'm Eloise from La Growth Machine, community builder and partnerships. And today I'm with Kevin Patrick about hot topics. I think we all talk about intent data, and today we will deep dive in a use case about website visitors, how to transform them into customers, hopefully. Every week, I animate session with expert like this one on the playground, which is the community platform of La Growth Machine. And for the one who don't know what is La Growth Machine, it's a sales automation tool. Giving you the opportunity to just making easier the prospecting workflow and maybe Kevin, I let you introduce yourself.
Of course, Eloise. Thank you. Yeah, hi everyone. Really honored to be here. I am Kevin Patrick. I'm co-founder of Asterisk Partners. We are a B2B growth partner. So we specialize in outbound campaigns, strategy, and the consultation. Predominantly, most of our clients are sort of US based, but yeah, I built quite a bit of a personal brand on LinkedIn where I try to do my best of showcasing what sort of good and correct outbound looks like. And again, when this opportunity came up, as you rightly said, Eloise, I think the whole topic of converting website visitors, I think a lot of B2B companies are not aware of some of the things that could happen. So it seemed to make sense, especially with the way the growth machine works in the midst of it, seemed to be like a good topic to cover today.
Yes, I cannot be more agree. I can just agree with you. You guys, are you familiar with intent data, with converting website visitor? Just tell us in the chat. Ask all your question. Today we will not have like a masterclass with deck, everything very let's say scholar. We will be like freely about debating and showing you a workflow that works for Kevin. So just don't hesitate to ask all your questions, to share your use case, your challenges in the chat, and we will just yes, ask and answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, looking forward to it.
Yeah, great. So okay, website visitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why this use case? Maybe you do have some also experimentation that you want to share with us.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. Yeah, why website visitors? I mean, it's one of the most fascinating pieces, I think, when we're speaking to new clients, or even before, when we're speaking to leads, whether through our own outbound or inbound. Um, it's always very interesting that there's always a big focus on um, investment in time and money about getting a lot of website traffic, and the whole idea behind that is a lot of companies say, well, we've got a decent funnel, we're going to get people to sign up for something, and then you're collating the information, etc., that way. But the reality is that I personally also feel like psychologically, if you're going through that process and you're like, I have to leave my details behind, and most of the time the type of resources that a lot of these websites are providing are not that actually, to them it sounds great, but still there's a 50-page ebook
Yeah.
or something else, like I don't think people are getting the value that they are hoping, or companies are giving the value that they're hoping that their prospect is hoping to get. So what ends up happening is all this money investment goes in, you get a lot of these people coming to the website, but then nothing else happens. There's no it's and I think that's why when tools like our B2B, in today's specific sort of showcase, I'm going to be using Vector. But when these tools started to come up and say, hey, not only identify the company, but more importantly, identify the actual individual that is coming onto your site. And then the fact that you can then build a workflow, and that's what I'm going to show today using Clay. So basically, overarching for people to know. So Vector goes into Clay, then we push it into La Growth Machine for a multi-channel outreach. And I've heard, which is very, very exciting, that in the pipeline, La Growth Machine's working on a direct integration with Vector.
Yeah.
So which is really, really exciting, which I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
we are really excited about this one. So this is a new feature coming, I think, in May, and yeah, this native integration will really, yeah, I think it's really a game changer to work this out. And I think the biggest challenge with website visitors use case will be how qualify this big volume of visitors. We will see it, I think, with Clay qualifying your audience base, let's say. Um, and I don't know if some people here in the audience already tried Vector or other tools to transform their website visitors. Really curious to have your experimentation and your feedback on this use case in the chat, and also just tell us if you are familiar with this kind of workflow, just segmenting with an intent-based strategy, let's say. Um, Before that, Kevin, should you share your screen?
yeah,
Maybe.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And actually, just speaking of intent data, just speaking of intent
Yeah.
data, which I think is really important to mention, specifically around the growth machine, which I've been using for some time now. And I I'm not saying it just because we're on this session now, but I do think of all the, in terms of multi-channel platforms, it is by far the easiest and the platform that seems to be developing the quickest in terms of the new features that are coming out. And I think that's why today I didn't want to go sort of down the route of a presentation, a slide, and go. I just actually wanted to show the tool as it is, because I think there are just some really amazing nuances. Like, I think one of the more recent ones, like the real chat functionality that you guys
Yes.
have, which is like real game changer, because what is the big problem of automated messaging on LinkedIn to some extent is that they all come out as this big paragraph. So you immediately know that. So the
This
fact
is
that you've been able
automatized.
to use
Yeah.
this, yeah,
Yeah, this one is absolutely great to like mimic some
yeah,
human behavior, and yes, feels like it's a natural and spontaneous conversation. That's really great. The real chat mode, it's my newest feature too, and I really do like the lookalike search too. It's like the Ocean.io.
it is.
Yes, so it's really like also to have segmentation with lookalike and similar companies with also an ABM strategy. Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
No,
Big
no,
fan.
and I'm sure we'll pick up some of that as we go
Yeah,
through the work machine specifically. But I think just so that when we talk about it, the reason I mentioned that also is that whilst today we're looking at website visitors, the other types of intent that you guys have made very easy inside
yeah,
of LinkedIn, things like people have attended an event, or if they've liked your post or commented, the fact that you can do all of that inside of La Growth Machine is, again, why I feel it's just so much easier, where historically we might have had to use Phantom Buster and other sort of tools, whereas I think the growth machine is just trying to bring all of that in one, which is, yeah, just hats off to the team on that. So I thought I'd just mention that as well.
great.
So on that note, I will share my screen. So just to, I guess, to set the scene for everyone. So the example that I'm using today, as mentioned, is Vector going into Clay, and then we'll look at then building a campaign, or the campaign that I've built, and I put some messaging inside of the growth machine as well, so we can discuss or talk about that in a little bit of detail that might be useful for people. I've picked Vector specifically, and by the way, it's like the same principle will work for our B2B, any other tool that you may want to use from a website visitor identification tool. So Vector and RB2B, as far as I know, focused on the US. I know there are other tools, I think like Clearbit and one other come to mind that I think focused sort of on Europe, because we predominantly work more with US customers or customers that are looking targeted in US, these are the main, Vector and RB2B sort of platforms that we sort of use, and that's why I feel more comfortable setting this example up with this particular workflow. But just be aware you can use it on others. So with Vector, vector.co, you can go sign up for yourself. It's free. There's no cost. They do have paid plans, but free is a great starting point for absolutely everyone. I think the difference, I think RB2B, they sort of allow you around sort of 200 credits or so a month before you have to go to the paid plan, whereas Vector, they for a while I don't think they had a limit, but now I think they have put a limit of about 1,000 now. So that's basically 1,000 exports. So where you get the information come into Vector and then you push it into, in this case, Clay. So you can do 1,000 a month, and then you can obviously do different billing, if you want to then increase your billing, etc.
And there is a strategy about location. There is a question from Niti asking what the equivalent of Vector for the European market.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think, again, I don't want to give any false information because we're kind of not having the need or sort of doing too much on it. I think from what I had heard or seen, I think there was something that from Clearbit they were doing something, or they had opened up the ability to do something like that. And then there's another product, Warm. It's just on the tip of my tongue because they've reached out to me so many times. It might be, because I feel like I'm getting it confused with the warm up tool, but it's like Warm. It's not Warmly. But there is another tool that I do know that does come to mind that I believe that potentially does Europe as well. But what I would suggest is, yeah, probably just obviously a search, a visitor identification tool for Europe. Obviously with Europe, I think some of the difficulties around things like GDPR. Obviously US, has in California had their own sort of data protection act there as well. But from what Vector and RB2B say, they're fully compliant with those sort of basis. So that's, again, why I think these guys have started in this area and dominated. And then I'm sure other tools are coming in to other parts of the world as well. So hopefully that gives a little bit of advice there. So in terms of Vector, you can sign up for free, as I mentioned. And then as soon as you come in, you come to the Get Started page. And on the Get Started page, you'll see this code here. So basically all you need to do, and it even tells you, copy paste the following code snippet into the head of your site and make sure you put it on all the pages. Very, very easy to do. They do give you like Google Tag Manager and React. They give you some other options, but the sort of first option is what we always use. And if we're working with a client, we'll just send that code to the IT team, and then you'll get a tick once it has been installed. So it's very, very simple and straightforward when it comes to Vector. In fact, yeah, very similar to our B2B as well. So that's number one. That's the setup as such. Once that has been done, under segments, and in the free plan, sorry, I must clarify as well, this is a fairly recent change that I saw from Vector as well. You can have 2 segments on the free plan at any one time.
Okay.
So you could basically, previously you could segment and you can create like lots of different, not that I don't think you need it. And a lot of this also depends on the website you're using as well, right? So I've created, for today's conversation, I've used a separate client's account to just show you, because I think it's a very, very good example. But the first segment, which I think is always sort of created as default, is all visitors. So this is absolutely everyone that's coming onto a particular website. And when you click on that particular segment, what you will see once it loads is this type of information here. So we're actually seeing who the person is, what their title is, a link to their LinkedIn page directly that you can click, their location, their company, the company size, and when they were last seen. So this level of information in real time, to be able to see of these people that have been coming through is unheard of, right? Like in terms of, I remember in 2020, 2021, companies like Lead Forensics sort of pushing the fact we can identify the companies that are coming to your site. But the problem is depending on your offer, if you've got Wells Fargo, a 10,000 plus company coming onto your website, you could make some calculated guesses. Okay, in this instance, it's around learning and development, diversity and inclusion. But even then, at a 10,000 or at a, Wells Fargo is probably going to be 50,000 people. Like, who in the hell are you going to go after specifically that who's been on the website?
Yeah.
So the fact that you can now look at it at this individual level is really, really, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And what also Vector have done more recently is they've started adding these fire icons to show actually how hot an intent lead these people are. So this is suggesting that these people have been on the website more than once. They have visited multiple pages. So again, that can also be another driver in terms of saying, hey, actually, these are the people that I want to, So whilst I'm a big believer, and whilst I'm a big believer in automation and doing all these type of things, I also do feel that, if this is something brand new for an organization, even if they were to do it manually to start with, it's not a bad idea because it gets them the flow and understanding of the data that they're seeing. The beauty of today's workflow is once it's a little bit of work up front, especially for those who might not be familiar with tools like Clay and etc. But once you get it done, it does work on autopilot, and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of this.
Great. I didn't know that they add this like, let's say, engagement level. This is great, and this is a real good starting point for the people who never tried this kind of workflow. And just at this stage, we already have like exciting and interesting data to explore.
Yeah.
That's really great. There is a Dax saying this is like Force 24, and Alex say maybe he has a problem, like saying your screen is frozen. For me, it's perfectly
Yeah, I'm
working.
able to see it.
So just
It's fine.
saying, yeah. Um, if other people has the same problem, just tell it. Can you show how to automate this on Clay? Yes, this is absolutely the
That's
next.
coming up next. That is coming up next. Absolutely. So yeah, we're obviously, and in fact, one of the other things that I've noticed that they've started to do. So Vector have focused on visitor identification. That is what their real core is. But what you sometimes will see, and I don't see this. I don't know if there's an example here. You will sometimes see like company name, and then it will say it's a ghost. So it will sort of like, yeah, I can't see an example here, but anyway, not that it matters. So sometimes you do it can show you there's a company, we don't know who it is, so they've identified them as a ghost. And what I love about Vector, their whole sort of avatar is sort of the funny like cartoon ghost character, that sort of stuff. So I think they've got something nice to play with. Anyway, what I was mentioning when it comes to segments, where I mentioned you can have 2 segments inside a vector. So number 1, as default, I believe you always have all visitor. My recommendation, and again, you need to take this with a pinch of salt, depending on, like I said, depending on your client or your own website. And what I mean by that is, do they have lots of pages? Are they getting lots of traffic to warrant segments? So this particular client get really good traffic, so it makes sense for us to have all visitors. But what I've also done is I've also, for this example here, have built out a high intent playbook as well. So what you can do is when you create go under segments and you create add segment, you have the option of creating a playbook, and that playbook will then push through the audience. So let me explain what we mean by high intent. So if I was to show you the playbook under all visitors, it would literally say the trigger is all site visitors. And then it gets pushed straight into Clay. That's all it is. It's literally showing you this is the info, and then it's either getting pushed or you can push it through to Slack or any of the other integrations. What I suggest that people do to, and like I said earlier, if it makes sense for you or your client, is you want to then filter based on specific pages. So in this instance, I've picked things like pricing or features or case studies, or so I'm sort of going and saying, if someone is looking and spending the time and looking at these sort of particular pages, they're going to be more higher intent than just someone who's going to just the homepage and then clicking off. So, and yes, we will push this into Clay, and we're going to do a bit of cleaning up in Clay, and I'm going to show you some of the ways I've done that. And for those of you who are, I'm sure, 10 times better than me at Clay, you'll think of even greater things that you can do. But the workflow today is, but before you then push it into something like Clay, and this might make sense when there's a direct integration between Vector and La Growth Machine, I recommend that you filter based on specific web pages, and then from there, your action is then to push it into Clay.
Great.
So utilizing that in Vector is something I highly recommend.
Question: can we do it through Webhook?
As in pushing it out via the webhook into another tool, or
Yeah, yes, exactly. From creating this kind of webhook, yeah, of playbook.
Yeah, so I mean, I've just clicked add an action here, and then they do give you the option to trigger any workflow with a webhook. So
Great.
that is possible inside of Vector.
And we have a question from Mikuel saying, is there a way for qualified leads on Clay to be added to an audience on La Growth Machine without using a webhook? Yes, we do have Clay La Growth Machine integration, native integration. So we will see it just after that. And
Yes.
as we said, from a vector perspective, we will have soon this native integration too. So yeah.
Cool. Good. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone in terms of why I'm pushing for you to ensure that you set up, if possible, high intent. So in this workflow, as I said, we've looking at people who are looking at these pages, and then it's getting pushed to Clay. Now, setting up to Clay is very, very easy. I've already done it here. You click Clay, you go into settings. It'll give you the URL, your webhook URL, and then all you are then doing is you are then setting that table up inside of Clay. So at the moment, that process, that integration is very, very straightforward. And then you can obviously pull in any of the information at any time. And what happens, and I clarified this with Vector yesterday or day before, every 30 minutes, any new signals that come into Vector then get pushed into Clay. So it's every 30 minutes, just so that everyone is aware.
Great.
Yeah. So yes.
Just for the person asking if this session is recording, yes, it's recorded, and it will be shared in the Playground, which is the community platform of La Growth Machine, and it's free, and I really invite you to join. You can ask all your questions. There is a lot of guides, templates, and all the recording of the weekly session I animate just for the record.
Cool. So now that we have pushed in real time, every 30 minutes, this information is getting pushed through. So again, for those of you who are not familiar with Clay, what normally you'll see is when you come to this page for the first time in Clay, you're not going to see it all laid out like this. What you're going to see is these little webhooks on the left-hand side. So all you need to do is you need to click on this, and then you'll see all the cell details that come up. And then any of the the columns that you wanted added to your table, you just click the add as column button. So again, I'm sure some of you are Clay experts on here, so sorry, that's very basic stuff. But for those of you who are not, I always like to mention that just in case. So you can add, but this is the information that's coming in from Vector, right? We can have a look at this. We can see there. You can see the type. We can see the title, the company, the page URL. So we can see they've looked at the features section on here. In fact, it's even pushed the fact that they've searched through Google, online training culture competency, very interesting. So all of that sort of data's come through, and we can see the segments it's pushed into. And what I've done for this example is I have then brought the columns in and just laid it out so a little bit easier to see. So what have I pushed in here? We've got the company name, we've got the company domain, we've got the company LinkedIn, we've got the title. I'll come back to title fit because I've done that myself. We've got the LinkedIn URL, we've got the first name, we've got the last name. That has all been provided from Vector for free.
So great. And question from Mikhail, what percentage of leads are typically identified by Vector, assuming anyone tech savvy will mask their identity on their browser?
I really don't want to come up and say a number. I think probably best to maybe ask Vector that question. I've noticed, I mean, in this particular example, it's a bit difficult to tell because they've got people from sort of all over the world. So I'm trying to do some quick head maths, but when we've done it for other clients, we have seen anywhere in the region of maybe 30 to 60%, maybe that is coming through in terms of Vector. But I'm sure Vector will obviously be able to give you, even more accurate data. And I don't want to give you some false numbers, but just from my experience, I would say probably 30 to 60% is probably coming through, in my opinion.
Okay, great.
So we are now in Clay. So you could, if you wanted, based on this information that we have here, you could just push this, for example, straight into low growth machine. And I've got that set up here as well. I'll show you. But this again comes back to the topic of relevancy and understanding that not everyone is going to be, your ICP. They're not going to be a fit. You don't want to be, sending stuff out unnecessarily. So there are lots of different ways to do this in Clay, and those of us who are maybe a little bit more trained in Clay, we can develop some really complicated prompts. We can look at the information of a company, and then we can see if that company is going to be a fit to the product or solution that we're going to be selling, and we can get a score out of it, and then we can put things into buckets. There's more you can do, but for today's demonstration, I've kept it quite high level, and the way that I would recommend anyone who is doing this maybe for the first time, and then down the line you can look to improve the process. So what I'm doing here is all this information is being pulled in, as we've discussed. But then what I've done is using the formula, column. So what I mean by that is, so when you add a column, you can use specific enrichments that are provided in Clay, or you can use the Clayagent or the AI, or you can link your AI. And I'm going to show you an example of that as well. But you do have something called formula, and formula is basically where you can give it some instructions, and using the data set, it's going to give you a response. And again, that's completely free of charge. So what I've done for the demonstration purpose today is I've created a title fit. And what this basically means is I have said, if title contains any of these words, say yes.
Okay.
So I've said, so in this context, because the client is interested in, and this can be whatever you want, right? And so I've said learning, diversity, inclusion, director, chief, head, global, president. And if I wanted to add another word, a couple of things you can do, like you can literally like add the word in here. So let's say we want like vice or vice president. You just follow that format and then save setting, or you can always use the use AI button. And so, yeah, there you go. This is what I typed. I said, say yes if /title, because that's the column, contains any of the following words, learning. So you just use normal language. And then if you click generate formula, Clay will automatically do will write the the technical formula for you there, and then you would just click output is correct, and then you save the formula. And then what's going to happen automatically, don't say this one, what's going to happen automatically is Clay is now identifying and saying, is this person a fit? No. Is this person a fit? No. Is this person a fit? Yes, because they've got chief in their title.
Great.
So this, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways to start filtering at a role level. Again, the experts will, because then you can start saying, well, if it was chief, I don't know, if it was chief finance officer and yours is a learning product, like you could argue, well, I don't want to, but the theory is, well, if they're a decision maker, top of the organization, and they're looking at your website, again, we have to always remember the context. This is people high intent pages on our website. It's probably worth reaching out because they've either had a look and then they're going to potentially task someone in their team to have a look at it, or so on and so forth. So just bear that in mind. But the title fit is a very, very useful option. So what I've done here, as I said, I've run that, and now we're seeing lots of yeses and nos, etc. So that's step one. That's one way to filter your title.
I really like this really easy way to start, because sometimes Clay can be really complex to start with, and it's really nice to share this kind of first steps. So yeah, really useful. Niti asked, could you do the same for your lead scoring?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I mean, depending on how you. Yeah, you can. I mean, formula can be anything. Like people, if you watch a lot of stuff online, people do formulas for things like if / column is something, then number one, and then number two, and then you get it to give you its number, and then you would then push all the number ones into a number one instantly campaign, and then number two into a growth machine campaign. So yeah, you can, there's no right or wrong in terms of the way that you want to use formula. And as I said, just to quickly show people, like, yeah, add column, formula, and then just type, and then whenever you want to choose a formula, just literally / and then you can put a pick from the relevant column that you want the formula to adhere to. But okay. Yeah, you could technically, yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good. So that's the first way. Now, once you've done that, in this example, I have used I've used the on the basis that I want to reach out, or I only want to add people into the La Growth Machine campaign who hit a certain criteria. And for me, this criteria is going to be the company size.
Okay.
Now, you can do this on many other factors. It could be the company, the type, it could go to B2B, B2C. There's many different things, but just because of time and of this example, what I've done is I've set up an AI prompt here, and I am using 4.0 Mini, so OpenAI 4.0 Mini. I'm using my account. And also the beauty of this, by the way, when you do it this way, when you're using OpenAI for this is not costing any Clay credits. This is one of the biggest misinterpretations that I see of people using Clay, like, oh, it's expensive, you're going to burn through credits very quickly. Once you get something like Clay, for example, and then you're bringing all of these tools in, if you're paying for those subscriptions, you are able to integrate, and we'll see this with the growth machine as well, which is natively integrated. You just connect it, and then it's not costing you any Clay credits. So in this instance, the prompt basically is saying, look at the company LinkedIn URL that we've provided and look for the employee account section. If it's not available, do a Google search using the company name, and then give us a number. If it's a range, take the highest number, just return the number, don't include any text. The other option that you could do, which again, depending on the number, is if you want within enrichment, if you wanted to then enrich company info, enrich company, then you could, and then based on the information, it will then give you more details. It'll give you the domain, the employee size, it'll give you lots of other info, but that will cost you
Yeah.
That will cost you credit. So my personal opinion is if you can use Clayagent or OpenAI or whatsoever, which is pretty easy to do, you can then run that. And as you see an example here, and sorry, the other part, what I've done is there's no point of me having AI run this if this is not a fit here. So what I've done at the bottom is using, again, you can use the use AI button. I've said only run if title is yes. So this is conditional. This is a conditional format, which means that if it meets the condition, then it will run that particular row. So that's why you are seeing on here that this condition has not been met.
Yes.
And of the first 10, we've got 130 employees, 25 and 35,900 employees.
Great. Also about enrichment for the people who want to start maybe a first campaign, could be adding people to their network, or after launching the campaign, La Growth Machine enrich all your leads freely because it's included in the plan. I get that for some use cases, it's great to have enrichment before launching the first campaign, but it's also a way to not spend credits.
Exactly. And I'm really glad you mentioned it. And that's why in this workflow, if you look at it, it's actually a very cost-effective way that we're running this, because in this instance, yes, we've got Vector for free. Yes, we're paying for Clay. Yes, we're paying for the growth machine, which we would be paying for anyway. But what we're doing now is I think if I click here, it's cost 0.00063 cent. I mean, yeah, it's basically free. So versus what that might have costed me as one credit for unnecessary information. And normally when people talk about Clay and the ability, obviously waterfall enrichment and finding emails and stuff, I don't worry about any of that when I'm pushing into low growth machine, because as Eloise, you just said, that's all included within the workflow and etc., which is again makes low growth machine a no-brainer. So hopefully that all makes sense. We've done the title fit. We've found the company size. Now, in this example, let's say I only want to send people into a low growth machine campaign for companies that are above 100 people. So what I've done here is, and actually let me just show for people's, so that people are aware. So if I just type in, so if I just type in a growth machine, LaGrowth, you see the native integrations inside of Clay, very, very easy to set up. In this instance, I've literally just created create or update lead. And this blue one just basically means you need to have your own account, which is absolutely fine because that's what you will have. So just to show you what this setup looks like, I've selected my account. I've pushed it into an audience inside of the growth machine called vector.co, which we can have a look at if time allows. But yeah, you basically set up an audience, and then that's where all of these leads are going to be pushed into, and then from there goes into a campaign, which is what we're going to look at. But what I wanted to also mention is using the same philosophy when we did the company size, where I said if the title fits yes, exactly what I've done here. So only run if the company size response is greater or equal to 100.
Yeah, makes sense. We had an intent, a signal, which is interest by visiting your website. We are filtering by chief, so decision people, and then we are also just matching with our ICP.
And that way you can just make sure that, in terms of the relevancy and again the focus of the people that you're going for, and then that whole conversation around deliverability, because that is very, very important. Like if you are just blasting everyone just because they've been on the website, and then people say, well, actually no, and then the spam complaint, etc., it's not relevant. Why, I've been on the site and it's not relevant. Why haven't you understood that it's not relevant for me? Type mentality. If you do a little bit of homework, and like I said at the start, this is now fully automated. Once this initial piece of work is done, you can just let it run, and every 30 minutes it'll find the relevant people, and then it'll push into the growth machine. It's that slick.
Great.
So hopefully that this clay piece has been very straightforward, but the idea again is you'll put everyone in, and then you can then push people, the relevant people into clay, into the growth machine. So now, talking about the growth machine, so depending on the, and Eloise, you may need to clarify, because I know obviously there's lots of different. I mean, you've got different plans inside of the growth machine.
Yes.
Do you have to be on a certain plan to have an API key, or is that available in all the plans, or how does that? Because I couldn't remember that personally.
I would say, yeah, we do have an API key, and I think it's accessible to the all plan.
Okay, fine. That's sort of because normally when you connect for people to know when they connect the growth machine to Clay, it'll just ask for the name of the account. So I just called it KP, for example, and then I've just put in the API key from the growth machine, which you can find in your settings. But I wasn't sure if it's available on all the plans, or if you have to be a certain plan. But
so it's on the second one.
okay, so on the second one, fine.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth, my opinion, it's definitely worth doing, just because of the time save of something like this. But even if you don't do it, you're not doing it straight away. It's good to know that you can build up to that once the numbers, etc., sort of hit.
yeah.
Anyway, the other reason I mentioned that is obviously depending on the plan. You obviously then have the option of choosing whether you build workflow completely from scratch, or whether you obviously can build your own workflow in terms of the different boxes and stuff. Personally, even though I'm on the ultimate plan, I actually really like the
catalog.
Yeah, like even though, so I obviously, being on the plan I'm in, I can build a campaign from scratch, but actually in this example I've used, if I'm not mistaken, I've used which one have I used? I used the most popular one. Yeah, this most used. I basically picked up this one here.
Yeah, all the workflows are updated really frequently with the best use case of our users.
Yeah, I bet, and that's what So for people, again, if you're thinking around which plan do I need to be on, whatever, like just get started with Growth Machine, because even the stuff that they provide on the basic plan, very, very powerful. And this is the workflow that I have chosen. So again, just to explain what the workflow looks like, you can see it all here. The audience, as I mentioned earlier, is the vector.co. So under leads, there's an audience section. You can name an audience, and then that's the audience you would then select in Clay, where you're pushing people into. So that's what the audience piece means. Then the identity, obviously associated myself, or maybe a client, or a different email address, etc. And in this case, it is email address, because this is a multi-channel. So we have LinkedIn and we have email. So we're hitting people on both fronts. But don't forget, the Growth Machine also does Twitter as well, or X, sorry. So in this instance,
even calls.
Okay. Oh wow. Yes. Okay. Fine. Great.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can do cold call or warm call, adding a call, and it becomes a manual task, and so the sequence pause, and you have someone to call. We do have integration with calls app, and you also have your little script memo, like having your memo to run your call, and then the sequence continue.
Wow. Great. So there's lots of people. Yeah, definitely check it out. Again, in this example and what we've tested and used, generally tend to use sort of the LinkedIn email route here. But again, feel free to experiment. So what I've also done for today's session is I wanted to look a little bit at messaging as well, because I think from what I've seen and heard, there's always this question of what sort of message do I use, and all the complications that come with messaging and so on. So I wanted to, and again, always take this with a pinch of salt in terms of it's got to suit the brand voice of your business, of your client, but maybe starts to give you some ideas. So if we look at the workflow here, once Clay pushes in real time, we'll push this into the Growth Machine. It's going to start. It's going to visit, my profile is going to visit that person's profile automatically. and then it's going to add send them a contact request. I personally never add an invitation note or anything like that. I always leave it blank. And I see anywhere from like 40 to 60, 70% conversion rate. I actually think a lot of that is to do with how well your profile is optimized. So
Yeah, it could depend also of the use case.
yeah,
Some people like to add a connection request message. It depends, to be honest.
yeah,
But the thing you can add also before uh, to add relation, it's like or follow, like doing a little social warming before.
yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, follow, like, post. In fact, some of our other sort of sequences and stuff here, we always do that in terms of like social warming, as you say. I think it's a really, really useful thing to be able to do. But yeah, where were we? So content here. So then what we're looking at, so it adds the request, and then if after 4 days the invite has not been accepted, the growth machine is now going to, well, actually, when I add people in, it's going to already look for email addresses anyway, but assuming that because they're using multiple data aggregator, it's going to find the email. It's then going to send the email. And the messaging I've used subject line of recent website visit, all lowercase. Hey, first name, a clever marketing colleague mentioned you might have been on our website recently. If so, I wanted to make sure you found all the info you're looking for. Happy to help if you need anything. Thanks.
Mm.
So again, theory behind this, simple language, a little bit of a clever marketing colleague, a little bit of, a human approach that doesn't feel like, super automated, and really just, saying you might have mentioned. Again, people like the sense of, rather than saying, now, I know you've definitely been on, because people are a little, is it okay to tell someone that we know they've definitely been on? So I say, well, you use the might tone, use the vulnerability. It's fine. Like, you're assuming the marketing colleague is mentioned. So you're reaching out accordingly to that. Then the sequence falls in after 5 days of no reply. Hey, first name, not sure if you saw on our website, but we offer a 2-week free trial to test drive our platform. Here's the link for your convenience. Any questions, let me know. So again, theory or thinking behind this is value. The first email, we've kept it completely link free. It's plain text. It's simple. And because it's associated to, it's part of the same subject line to the first one. If they were to scroll down, they can see, okay, notice that I was on the website. Okay, now, and they can put two and two together, and I've given them a link to drive to that next stage. And again, I've written this all myself. You can change it around. I know the Growth Machine also has sort of like an AI generated piece as well, that you fill out some prompts that they give you, and then it can generate messaging accordingly as well.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different options. But just for today's, I wanted to sort of showcase what I feel as being short, direct, value-driven type of content. And then after 7 days, if nothing happens, you can change all of this. By the way, I've just left it as it was, 5-7 days. It will visit their profile on LinkedIn, and then it will send a third email. So again, I've now changed. I put a new subject line. So it's a new thread. Hey, first name, we're hosting a masterclass. And again, to be human, fancy word for webinar very soon, and thought you might find it interesting. Feel free to register here. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks. So again, thinking on that concept of value, getting them into
Yeah.
the ecosystem. We know there's some intent and interest there. Not saying you shouldn't or you couldn't push for booking a call on these type of things, but just the type of flows that we've seen, if the business allows it, this is a really nice way of having that sort of lighter touch and sort of pushing through. So that's the top workflow.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're going to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just say about maybe sometimes when you say we have to bring value, share value, it could be stressful for people who don't have time to create value as a creator could do. But you have to have in mind that the goal is to create conversation, and value can be into a conversation, an experiment you had with a client, or anything that is not just booking a call. And all your job is to create a conversation. And even I'm not sure about timing, or everything is a good opportunity to create conversation, and why not put them in another workflow for later and everything. So yeah, really important.
Cool. Yeah, no, great point. Great point. And then the other part of this workflow, which is if they, during the 4 days, when they accept the request, is, and this is what I wanted to show. So
Oh yeah.
I've taken the same message basically, which is slightly edited because thinking this is message. I don't need to say thanks, Kevin, Patrick, and like that we know it's and in fact I still do see that happening a lot on LinkedIn though. People like write an email as a message. So do be aware of that, like as you don't need a signature. Sometimes people say you don't even need to put the name because then my name and the other person's name is at the top. I mean, I still like saying hey first name. I think it's it's a natural way of starting a convo. But what I really like is where I've activated this real mode. And so I don't know if you can see here, but basically where on the left it looks like a big chunk of message, which is what most messages look like. This, once you turn this on, the first message will say, like, for example, hey, first name, a clever marketing colleague, blah, blah. Then a separate message will come out. If so, I wanted to make sure if you found all the info you're looking for, if you need any help, like it will come out as 3 or 4 separate messages. So it's like I've clicked, typed it, send, typed it, send, typed it, send. So it's yeah, as it says, it looks like a real chat, which I think is a brilliant feature.
Thank you. To be honest, we didn't expect that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like it was like for us a tier 2 or tier 3 feature, and like it's a big boom, like really
Yeah.
game changing, and everyone is like, no, it's a tier 1 feature for us.
Yeah. No, I think it's one of those things that you don't think about because you're like, oh, it can't, maybe it's not possible, but then you're like, no, anything is possible if you really
Yeah.
want it to be.
So
So
the hard punctuation, which is our dot or exclamation, is the symbol to separate the chat modes for
cool.
the one who ask the what is the system.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. I didn't realize that as well. Great. No, that's awesome. It's a brilliant feature, guys. It's definitely something you should use. And the other thing that I recently saw as well as we were doing some stuff from the clients is the new A/B testing facility as well.
Yes.
So that's very cool to be able to do that inside of LinkedIn. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
saw that
you
one.
can A/B test any message, and Anna Hate in the chat say that's a cool feature, and we tried also voice as well, which worked great as well. Yeah.
Which and yeah, yeah, great. Because actually, what I've done is step 2. Instead of sending another message, I have I've set up a voice message. And again, what I've absolutely loved La Growth Machine, and I think if you guys were probably the very first people to do this because I
Yes.
never saw it anywhere else. But the fact that you can clone hey person's name and then the rest of the message,
Yes.
I still think till today it's absolutely genius. So
Yeah.
the voice note does work very, very well, and the fact you can fully automate it. So yeah, so use a custom introduction for each lead. That's been set up. Very similar message to email 2. Obviously slight change in terms of because it's in the LinkedIn interface, but very, very similar. And then the workflow here is saying if there's no reply after 7 days, if it's got the email, it will then send them an email. I've used this as a way. General rule of thumb is your first email to any cold or warm prospect in sort of an outbound is keep it plain text, no links, no signature, nothing. So that's why even this email is very, very straightforward. Hey, first name, recently connected on LinkedIn. They sent a couple of messages. I think you might have received on our website. Appreciate it might not be in LinkedIn every day, so thought an email might help. Thanks, Kevin. So at least to try and push them back to LinkedIn. Again, if you're doing multi-thread with multi-channel, with Twitter and call, that's one of the great tactics on the phone. Like you leave a voice note and remind people and tell people you've sent them an email. Similar sort of mentality here. We're sending them an email saying, hey, we've actually sent some stuff on LinkedIn rather than trying to put too much info in this email as well.
Yeah, we have a question about what's the content of your 25-second voice. For me, the best is like using this as a follow-up. Like, I don't know if you already saw my last message, but blah, blah, blah. Really short, like 25 seconds. Do you remember what was? Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can share your.
Yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what I said, but I think I said.
We don't hear that, but we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I've just basically said. I mean, to be fair, hearing it back, I will definitely change it based on. So it basically says, you know, in fact, it's very similar messaging to basically similar messaging to here. You know, hey first name. Now thinking back to it, I'd probably change it, but basically something like hey first name. Um, uh, not sure if you saw when you're on our website, we actually offer a 2-week trial to try out the platform. And just basically using that as a way to again just engage the conversation and hey, yeah, actually send me across the link. Or again, if I wanted to add maybe a day later, if I wanted to then say, hey, actually that might be a nice idea. So I'll send a voice note and then a day later say, hey, hey, first name, sorry, forgot to send you the link, and then you send them the link the day after. If
Yeah.
it's somewhere to sign up. So but that was basically the subject of the content of the voice note on this one.
Yeah, I really like to send a voice and then a link, and in my voice saying, I will just share you the link just after. Another one use case I saw, it's like just starting with a voice and just after that saying, what do you think?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, what do you think? I have a voice note to listen, and it's really, really efficient.
Yeah. No, and I do, and again, you speak to different people doing this. You know, some people say, I mean, I always believe, yeah, you have sort of some written message, and then a voice note, like hybrid sort of in between, works very well, because then they get a little bit of message to still know you. Because I sometimes feel if you, I mean, again, I don't think it's bad, but I think if you connect with someone brand new and you hit them with a voice note straight away, it's a personal preference, right? Some people may not want that. I always sort of feel start with a bit of a message, so you give them an option to sort of have that direct one-to-one messaging, and then put a different sort of format in with the voice note.
Mm.
And then finally, and then again, this is the DM2 here. So this is down this workflow. Hey, if you're hosting a most that I find valuable, it's called X and it's going to cover Y. If it's relevant, feel free to sign up, and you give them a link. Hope to see you there. And again, I've activated the real chat mode.
Great.
So again, the reason I've sort of done it like this is just to again prove that, because I think a lot of people get put off by this thing, thinking, oh, I've got to write content for this and this and this and this. But if you can see here, the content that I've written for 1, 2, 3 is what's been multi-purpose for all the other boxes. So no need to overthink. And as Eloise said earlier, if you don't have a free trial or something like that, you know, I always generally find, based on what your clients are currently talking to you about, or maybe when you're on sales calls and things people are asking, those are the type of things you can sort of preempt, and maybe that's also a way of sort of offering value and getting them to, you know, have that
Yeah.
conversation.
And maybe just if you can you click on the audience, the lead option to import from LinkedIn, because I think it's also interesting to see how to build it. Import leads, yes, and LinkedIn, and yes, here we go. So here, this is also a way to bring value, but not your value. I mean, you can just retargeting people who comment a post from a creator. So the creator bring the value to someone who is already interested in your topic, and you can just like use this as an icebreaker. It could be your competitor, but it could be just a creator on your topic and your subject and your industry. So some people say, oh, I don't have a big editorial line on LinkedIn and etc. You can use the opportunity of the retargeting, like commenting, retargeting people who comment a post from you or anyone.
Yeah. And actually, one other thing I noticed, Eloise, which is what I think is happening here, is you now are offering the ability to clean. So I basically imported a list from Sales Navigator recently, and apparently like 30 to even when you do your filters, about 30 to 40% is still not relevant. So now No Growth Machine are now, I think it's still in beta phase, but I think it now gives you the ability to look at your search and the titles you're looking for, and then if a contact does not match that, it basically removes it for you as well. So it's like a double cleaning.
Yes, exactly. This is the clean audience feature, just released and in beta, and this is exactly this goal. Yeah.
No, it's very cool as well. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. I think that the sort of stuff that you guys come up with, like on a regular basis, it's really, yeah, really, really awesome. It really makes the whole LinkedIn piece, well, just multi-channel super easy. So
Great. Yeah. We tried. um, Also, if you guys want to test like growth machine during 1 month instead of 14 days, we do have a little magical link with Kevin, and I share it in the chat. But you also maybe see it in the here we go. As a little label. Okay. Do you have any question before we finish this session? Don't be shy. Like Kevin is free today. Like he, has a free time for us. So just don't be shy. And thank you very much, Kevin. It was so useful and insightful and really clear. Even for me, I know that now I'm not an expert of clay, but I remember when I start using clay, it was like I don't know
yeah, it's a lot.
from where to start, and I really like the way you start filtering with a yes no title field, and it's really great to also have the opportunity to use clay even without all his complexity. And yes, with the native integration with Lagrange machine, it's really powerful. Will this recording be available? Yes, on the playground. So the playground, it's a community platform. I just give you the link here, and you will just have the recording today or tomorrow live in this session in this community platform. Yeah. Okay, great, Kevin.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone finds this useful. And again, if anyone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, please find
Yes.
me. I'm Kevin Patrick, and I've got a blue icon behind me, so you can't miss me. And yeah, thank you for having me once again.
Thank you for accepting the invite, and can't wait to also have more experimentation about this use case, convert website visitors, and maybe we should do another one with the vector integration in
Yeah, let's
few
do that
months.
out. Yeah, let's do that. Sounds like a
Yes,
plan.
great. So thank you very much, guys, and see you for a next session with our expert next week. Bye bye.
Bye.